Gym Leader Ryan here, and I know it's been a while since I've done the review. So I was like, I want to get one in. I don't have a lot of time to, but I finally had an opportunity. I was looking around Facebook, and I follow Hyperkin on Facebook, and I was like, "Hey, look what's coming out, the ProCube." I was like, "Well, this is interesting." And I looked at it as a novelty, bought it. This is the Hyperkin ProCube controller. This thing is this thing is certainly interesting. Uh, I prefaced this review that I've never reviewed a controller before, but if my good buddy Pokemon Master Ricky can do it, I most certainly can. Now, I also preface with the fact that the GameCube controller is my second least favorite Nintendo controller, only behind the N64. Man, I tell you one thing, Melee fanboys and the Wii's lack of, supporting other controls kept this sucker going on longer than it should have. But we're not here to talk about the GameCube controller, only the ProCube. I am a big fan of crossovers, and that was one of the reasons why I decided to invest in a ProCube. Now this is the Wii U Pro controller. This thing is a boss, and I luckily found this thing on a deal, so I didn't have to pay $50 for it. But this thing is a boss. To me, it is the pinnacle of non-gamepad controllers, where the gamepad is number one, numero uno. You can't stop it. It is the beast. But the ProCube, it does well on its own. Now, we're going to talk about, is it better than the GameCube controller? To me, yes. And I say that because there is a bias there. But look at the GameCube controller. It is fit. The grips are in slightly, and the triggers, those triggers with the springs, I've never really enjoyed them. But look at the ProCube. The grips are flared out. There's more space in the back of the controller. It allows for a more comfortable grip, and it's also lighter than the traditional GameCube controller. The C stick is very responsive. They've adapted the buttons from the Pro controller. Uh, See, you have your plus and your minus and your home, and you also have start and pause, which was on the GameCube controller, but not on the Pro controller. The triggers are nearly identical to the Wii U Pro controller, which to me is a huge selling point. Now, if you're going to look into invest in one of these, it's not a bad investment. From Hyperkin, it's $30, but they do try to get you on shipping for 10. If you're looking for a Pro controller and you really only have $40 to get it, I would get the ProCube. If you have the 50, I would recommend you go all the way with the traditional Wii U Pro controller. But if you're a big fan of the GameCube, this it works great. I tried it on Smash Brothers, Mario Kart 8, and I tried it on a Wind Waker HD, and it controlled fine. The only thing I had a little problem with in Wind Waker HD was moving forward, and unlike the GameCube controller, which you couldn't click in the sticks. These sticks both click on the Pro controller. So now I think that is what I think I accidentally clicked the stick and had a tough time moving forward. That was the only issue I ran across with that. Um, its competitor, you have the Nyko Pro controller here. I would recommend that for people who are transitioning from offset controllers like the 360. But I do think that it is the buttons are not as stiff on the ProCube. The triggers feel pressure sensitive on this, even though there's no games that involve pressure sensitivity on the Wii U. So there are perks to having this controller, which you, instead of spending $20 on the GameCube adapter for Smash Brothers, you can have a very similar experience without having to get it, and that's $20. This is $30, and you have the added benefit of the support for all the Wii U games that you can use Pro controllers with. So I can play Xenoblade Chronicles X and Splatoon with this. Interesting. Now, the inevitable comparison to the god of wireless controllers, the Wavebird, which keep in mind, I didn't play much during the GameCube era, with the holy era, as it's referred to many Nintendo fans. And as this thing is really solid, it's a really good controller. And I say that with not my disdain, just my annoyance of Melee fandom for the GameCube controller. I do say this is the superior one because the battery pack, the space, it has a good wraparound. Just I don't like it touching that battery pack my fingers touching that battery pack back there. There could be some cramping if I play some long Smash sessions with the guys. Back here, don't got much to worry about. It's also a lot lighter than the Wavebird in comparison. So if you got $40 floating around, I would get the Hyperkin ProCube controller. Especially if you were a big GameCube guy or girl, I think it's a must buy. It is certainly one of the most unique Wii U controller options, and there are a lot of controller options for the Wii U, by far more than any console ever. And so I recommend the ProCube. I'm not sad that I invested in it, and I'll most definitely have friends that will enjoy using it. And not saying that I didn't. It's just there are so many. The gamepad, man, I love this thing. It's tough to take that mantle away. Also of note, if you thought that you're gonna buy a Pro controller in the hopes of charging your other ProCube controller in hopes of charging the other ones, it uses a different end than the traditional than the Pros. See, so yeah. So if you're hoping for some similarities there, yeah, not so much. But the ProCube, it's a good controller. I would recommend it. And hopefully I did good on my first controller review. You guys take it easy, and remember, you're all just dorks like us.